So here we have an insane video. I caught this from The Intercept, and this is showing what looks to be war crimes carried out by Ukrainians. All right, let's rewatch. Sorry about that. So, warning, graphic imagery. They have. So they just had 3 prisoners. They pulled them out of a van and they kneecapped all 3 of them. They just shot all 3 of them in the leg for no apparent reason. That's horrible. As I give The Intercept props for covering this story, let's also point out how they can't help but do Western propaganda. So here we have a video showing Ukrainians doing a war crime. And let's listen to the very first sentence that accompanies this video. Amid overwhelming evidence that Russian forces have committed war crimes in Ukraine, a video circulating on social media this week appears to show Ukrainian forces shooting captive Russian soldiers in the legs. Let me fix that sentence. This video appears to show Ukrainian war crimes. They are torturing soldiers and shooting them in the legs. That's all you have to write. Why do we need this qualifier sentence, this whataboutism sentence? Like, yeah, this is bad, but remember, the other guys are worse, and that's why they're justifying this with this sentence. Or at least attempting to, or at least reducing how heinous this act is. While some Ukrainian officials suggest the video could be fake, the president's office promised to investigate. If verified, this would be a war crime. It's not a fake video. On Monday, Ukrainian journalist Yuri Bostov posted a video of the charred remains of 3 men he identified as Russian soldiers. This is the exact same location. A visual analysis of Bostov's video by The Intercept reveals that it was filmed in the same location as the earlier video of the prisoners being shot. This new evidence means that investigators will need to determine if Russian prisoners of war were tortured and then killed. Ukrainian journalist finds charred remains where alleged war crime was filmed. Ukraine's commitment to the laws of war is being tested by how it responds to a video that appears to show its forces shooting Russian prisoners. Well, it's about 2 weeks later. Spoiler alert. I don't remember them holding any of this accountable, and now there's a whole new round of stories of supposed Russian war crimes, none of which are being independently verified by any Western media. They are just repeating uncritically whatever the Ukrainian government is feeding them. Smells fishy, to say the least. Amid overwhelming evidence that Russian forces have committed war crimes during an unprovoked war of aggression in Ukraine, Ukrainian officials were confronted this week with video that appeared to show Ukrainian soldiers shooting captive Russian soldiers in the legs. Once again, that sentence is fucking ridiculous, and you know what I'm talking about. Overwhelming evidence that Russian forces have committed war crimes. Okay, show me the overwhelming evidence. And an unprovoked war of aggression in Ukraine. I mean, it's a war of aggression. You can make that argument, but unprovoked, that is outlandish. Although Ukraine's senior military leader and its domestic intelligence agencies both insisted that the video posted on social networks on Sunday was a fake produced by Russia, an advisor to Ukrainian President Zelensky promised that the government would investigate and punish those responsible if the incident did take place. Double CK. On Monday, a well-known Ukrainian journalist, Yuri Budasov, I cannot read names, published graphic video showing the charred remains of 3 men he identified as Russian soldiers, as Ukrainian forces recaptured the town of Malaya Rohan outside Kharkiv over the weekend. Although Budasov made no mention of the video of the alleged war crime, a video analysis of his footage shows that it was clearly filmed in the same location as the video of the prisoners being shot sometime after that incident. Reporting by open-source investigators and the BBC News have already established that the video of the alleged war crime was recorded at a dairy processing plant in Malaya Rohan, which is about 3 miles east of Kharkiv. Multiple visual clues in Budasov's video show that he discovered the burned bodies in precisely the same part of the dairy plant's courtyard where, in the prior video, at least 8 captives were filmed bleeding on the pavement, several with their hands bound behind their backs and bags over their heads. How Ukraine deals with this video, which, if verified, this execution, the way these soldiers were killed, sounds very similar to the way these civilians were tortured and killed in Bucha, which is the latest round of war crimes that Russia's being accused of. And keep in mind, in that town of Bucha, it was liberated. The Russians pulled out. The mayor posting social media, everything's good that day. The next day, Azov battalion rolls in. And then the day after that is when all of these reports start coming out about all the atrocities that took place. Just saying. Multiple visual clues in Budasov's video show that he discovered the burned bodies in precisely the same part of the dairy plant's courtyard where, in the previous video, at least 8 captives were filmed bleeding on the pavement, several with their hands bound behind their backs and bags over their heads. How Ukraine deals with this video, which, if verified, would be evidence that Ukrainian forces have committed war crimes, could be a decisive moment for the country's civilian leadership. Internal divisions between civilian leaders and career military intelligence officers appeared almost immediately after the video generated a wave of anger on Russia's social media channels. Let me give you a hint. Moderate civilian leadership like Zelensky, they're not in charge. They're a puppet to the United States, and they are also strong-armed by the Nazis and the psychos within his own country. He has no control. He has absolutely no control. On Sunday, the commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, Lieutenant General Valery Zaluzhnyi, wrote on Facebook that the enemy films and distributes staged videos showing inhumane treatment by alleged Ukrainian soldiers of Russian prisoners. Sounds like projection to me. But in an interview on Sunday posted on his YouTube channel, Oleksiy Arestov, an advisor to Zelensky, told the Russian opposition figure Mark Finyan the government is taking this very seriously and there will be an immediate investigation. We are a European army. We do not mistreat our prisoners. If this turns out to be real, this is absolutely unacceptable behavior. We are a European army? What does that mean? Sounds a little supremacist to me, you know? Almost like they have like an idea that since they're from Europe, they have a higher standard than maybe an army from another part of the world. I don't know. Sounds like, something like a neo-Nazi or an ultra-nationalist might say. I would like to remind all our military, civilian, and defense forces once again that the abuse of prisoners is a war crime and that has no amnesty under military law and no statute of limitations. I remind everyone that we are a European army of a European country. We treat prisoners according to the Geneva Convention, no matter what your personal emotional motives. So this is from Human Rights Watch. Ukraine, apparent POW abuse would be a war crime. Video appears to show fighters shooting Russian POWs. 2 videos showing the alleged abuse were posted to Reddit and Twitter, respectively, on the morning of March 27th. A longer video posted subsequently on YouTube contains the same footage from these 2 videos, plus an additional 1 minute and 58 seconds from the incident. The longer video shows 5 men in military uniform on the ground with their hands bound and 2 of them with bags over their head. At least 3 of the captives appear to be wounded in the leg. A trauma doctor who reviewed the video for Human Rights Watch said that the upper leg injuries and blood on the ground were consistent with gunshot wounds. After 2 minutes and 40 seconds, the captors pull 3 other prisoners from a blue van and shoot their legs at close range. One of them then hits a prisoner in the face with a rifle butt. The trauma doctor said that the 3rd prisoner appears to have been shot in the back of the thigh, noting that femur fractures are debilitating and susceptible to heavy bleeding. The video location was identified as a dairy farm in the village of Malayo Rohan, about 18 kilometers east of the center of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. The location was first identified by an open source researcher and then verified by various others, as well as by Human Rights Watch. The captors have a mix of uniforms, weapons, and gear, and no clearly identifiable insignia. Whether these individuals are part of the regular army, a territorial defense unit, or another force remains unclear. My bet's going to be on like Right Sector, Georgia Legion, Azov, scumbags, one of those guys. Some of the prisoners have white bands on their arms, and one of them has a red band, both of which are worn by Russian and pro-Russian forces in the Ukraine war. Many of the captors have blue armbands, which are frequently worn by Ukrainian troops. Some of the prisoners have white bands on their arms, and one of them has a red band. White bands on their arms. To bring up Bucha again, a lot of these civilians that were killed execution style had their hands tied behind their back, and they were tied with white bands. Could it be that the people who were massacred in Bucha might have been ethnic Russians, pro-Russian forces, Russian collaborators that the Azov battalion murdered the day after Russia left, and then blamed on the Russians to further incense the West and increase Azov's chances as a fighting force, because the only reason they can survive this war is for Western intervention to constantly increase. But that's a whole other story. Let's go back into this. A person off camera accuses the men of attacking Kharkiv, speaking in Russian with a Ukrainian accent. Ask about the reconnaissance group. Where he has seen them, I need to know exactly, a person off camera asks. Where is the group? Some of the prisoners are on the verge of passing out. He's out, one captor says. Next. At one point, a person is heard speaking, apparently on a military radio, in Russian without a Ukrainian accent. So they're torturing them for information. Okay. That's the people we're allied with. We're defending the democracy of Nazis. And by democracy, I mean a coup government that was violently imposed upon that country. Like I said, the first casualty in war is the truth. The fog of war is very thick. You shouldn't believe everything you read or see. You should be very skeptical of it all. But this appears to be slam dunk evidence of Ukraine doing war crimes. And, you know, how many stories you're going to see or hear or read about this? And then how many edgelords are you going to see say stuff like, they deserve it. Why are they invading a country? Death to invaders, blah, blah, blah. It's never, there is never an excuse for murdering a prisoner. That's always a crime, no matter what. It's a moral crime. It's a literal crime. It's a war crime. It's a crime no matter how you shake it. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's also dangerous for the Ukrainians themselves. It opens up the possibility of retribution. War is a very slippery slope. That's part of the reason it's so dangerous. You know, it sounds ironic to have rules of engagement and rules of war, like a gentleman's conflict. But there's a reason why that exists. There's a reason why there is an effort within warfare to keep things contained within a certain sandbox. It's because if you don't, you know, things spiral out of control really fast, whether it's torture, United States, or nuclear weapons, United States, you know, Guantanamo Bay, Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Anyway, the United States is not the good guys. Russia is not the good guys. Ukraine is not the good guys. There are no good guys.
Dylan! You son of a bitch. What's the matter? The CIA got you pushing too many pencils? Huh?